Hello, everyone, and we're back. Right now, we're going to be talking about crypto for the unbanked. I'm sure that brought a lot of you guys to Bitcoin because you wanted to save the world, and we have some specialists to tell us a little bit about this. We've got Daniel Gouldman. He's owns several businesses and hopes to make a difference for others. He's a political person with an avid interest in geopolitics, history, and business. He's going to give us some interesting stats about the unbanked. We have Leah Callon-Butler. She's the director of Emfarsis, a consulting firm focused on the role of technology in advancing economic development across the Asia Pacific. And Sawyer Levy heads growth at Umoja Labs with responsibility over sales, business development, and partnerships. He joined Umoja with a background in digital banking and financial services for informal markets. He's been working on creating financial services as city infrastructure with companies like Mobility Capital Finance and built digital marketplaces for street vendors with QPU Market. He's bringing the informal economy online with the touch of a smartphone and created access to financial services and products where no one else has even existed. So let's have Sawyer give us his first take on the unbanked.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I just want to make sure, is everyone able to see my screen? The deck that I'm sharing?
Not yet.
How can I make that come up here? There we go.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah. Okay, great. Well, thank you again for having me. Very, very excited to be here. Today, what I want to talk about is blockchain-based social protection and aid. Thank you for the introduction. Like you said, my experiences in informal markets, studying and working in them, building digital marketplaces, financial services, and microloans for street vendors specifically is kind of where my experience has been. Now I'm with Umoja Labs, working on, among other things, blockchain-based social protection and aid. So we're experiencing a transition in the social sector and aid from providing people with clothes, water bottles or food to cash aid, because NGOs are primarily realizing two things. One, it's a lot more efficient and a lot less expensive to give people cash. And also it's a lot more empowering as well. We've been a part of this in our daily lives. And it's a stereotype that we've all dealt with, that perhaps when we come across somebody on the street who's less fortunate or homeless and they ask for money, we do sometimes carry some doubt about their intentions of how that money will be spent. Are they going to buy the right things? So maybe we prefer to donate to organizations, or we trust our organizations we trust, or buy them something directly to eat or to drink. The problem here being that of transparency. But actually, and contrary to popular belief, beneficiaries of cash assistance use it in extremely efficient ways. A perfect example of this is in Syria, when the crisis hit and many NGOs were just flooding the country with aid. 70% of that aid was actually resold for something that people in crisis actually needed. So even though it's been with good intentions in the past, we've sort of had this colonial way of supporting people, and cash aid is now one of those narrative changes that we're starting to see in terms of how humanitarian aid is carried out. All this to say that cash isn't really all that efficient around the world. Two perfect examples of this: Venezuela and Vanuatu, both places where Umoja Labs works. And Vanuatu, which is in the Pacific, where Umoja is deployed with Save the Children. People quite literally bury their cash underground because the country is one of the most disaster-prone areas in the world. It's a huge risk to actually have paper cash. They even denote their currency with polymer banknotes to prevent the currency from being ruined from environmental disaster. So cash, a serious risk. Venezuela, hyperinflation. So their cash loses value almost immediately. So people have no choice but to carry backpacks of cash into stores to do something as simple as buy a cup of coffee. Two other big issues: speed and transparency. People live or die in a crisis based off the aid they receive in the first 72 hours, and the time that it takes to provide the proper support to people on the ground, determine community needs, to spool up international supply chains, to support donor support, means that it often takes several months for NGOs to actually deliver relief. Too late. And lastly, once NGOs or governments hand out cash, once it leaves their hands, they lose complete track of it. Poof, gone, impossible to track. So it makes it really difficult to actually evaluate, monitor, and analyze aid programs to improve them. So all of these traditional issues is what plagues cash assistance today. It makes it really difficult for us to do even the simplest things like give someone across the world $1. So now, in a world responding to an increased demand for cash assistance brought upon by COVID-19. I think we're all pretty familiar with the term stimmy now. It's pretty commonplace to do cash stimulus programs. The distribution of capital is very much so limited by how that money is distributed, which often occurs with outdated systems built over a decade ago. And so with billions of people still without bank accounts, formal identification, or even access to the internet, the ability of governments and major humanitarian agencies to reach these people is extremely challenging. And I think this is where blockchain and crypto have a ton of potential to scale social protection programs and meet the needs of billions of people who live on dollars a day. With digital cash and voucher assistance programming powered by blockchain. This is an increasingly relevant solution that we're seeing and one that we're working on at Umoja Labs. So enabling the transfer of value is obviously one of the most basic features of blockchain technology. And so the context of cash aid perfectly maps to using it as a tool for efficiently distributing aid. But by leveraging blockchain technology via digital cash assistance, humanitarian agencies can disperse aid instantaneously to tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people, all at once using a single device and a shared platform. Essentially blockchain allows us to deliver aid to anyone, anywhere, regardless of where they are, what type of phone they have, if they're connected to internet. Super exciting. And so furthermore, humanitarian agencies can then provide 100% transparency to donors as to how that aid is actually being spent. So all while preserving beneficiary data privacy rights. So the transparency and immutability features of blockchain to defend against the misappropriation of funds is also a really critical component of this. And so, all in all, digital cash assistance provides emerging market communities the opportunity to become, members of an online burgeoning economy through which they can access products, financial products and financial services that were previously completely inaccessible. This is particularly useful in the increasing number of locations where ongoing conflict and political instability results in a breakdown of traditional finance, which creates major barriers to traditional cash assistance. So digital cash assistance powered by blockchain allows for the use of digital currencies that can function independently of failed systems, allows them to retain value, and helps agencies maintain delivery, speed, and scope. Umoja Labs is doing this in a couple places right now. We did a program with Oxfam in Vanuatu as well, called Unblocked Cash, which delivered $2 million in aid to over 35,000 beneficiaries. Some of the results that we saw were really great. Reduced delivery times by 96%. It cut costs by 75%. Also doing this in Care Ecuador right now. We're in the middle of a pilot where we're supporting 500 vulnerable women to access sexual and reproductive health services. So essentially, we created a closed program that included onboarding 20 vendors who use a commerce app, one of our proprietary apps. It's a commerce app, which is a POS, crypto POS, essentially enabling them to accept crypto payments from aid recipients. So these would be vendors like clinics, doctors, and pharmacies. Great results so far. The number of women who are now able to support their basic needs has jumped from 20 to 86%. And they also have been experiencing an increased sense of stability, physical security from carrying digital dollars rather than paper cash. So we do this through the Umoja Management Dashboard. This is how we do these international aid delivery programs. The Umoja Management Dashboard is like the center of your digital cash operations for cross-border mass payouts. This is what it looks like if you were to be using it. So not only does it allow you, and this is a testing situation here, so there's no transactions happening, but you would be able to see something more fun, like all the transactions happening and be able to monitor it real time. You can also easily just disperse funds to however many people at a few clicks of a button. For instance, it works like this. So you would, let's say you want to deliver $100, you would select a group of participants to deliver that money to, preview your disbursement, send funds, and then you'll have digital dollars deposited on people's phones, feature phones with digital wallets, crypto digital wallets anywhere. And you can actually view the wallet activity, their wallet activity here, and make sure that funds are being spent in appropriate ways, and also have complete control to turn off any endpoints. So this is how we're doing it with organizations like Save the Children, Oxfam, Care International, and we're really excited about the prospects of blockchain for aid delivery.
Thank you, Sawyer. Great. Leah, maybe you can give us some insights. I know that you are down in the Southeast Asia region. So how is it different over there? Can you give us some info?
Yeah, absolutely. I've got some slides. I'll just pull them up. So hi, everybody. My name is Leah Callon-Butler. I'm the director of Emfarsis. We are an advisory firm that is focused on Web3 for social impact. And I also write a regular opinion column for CoinDesk, which is mostly about how blockchain is being adopted across Southeast Asia, where I've been based for the last few years. We're going to talk about that today. And you may have also seen a mini documentary that my company Emfarsis produced in 2021. It was all about the rise of NFT gaming in the Philippines. It's called Play to Earn. And I'm just going to stick in the chat right now a link to a 30-second trailer for it so you can watch that when you get a chance. So I just want to share with you a little bit about my experience in terms of living in the Philippines since 2018. I didn't know anything about the Philippines until I got there. We actually had a dev team there. As many people around the world, they outsourced to different countries. We'd been doing that to a team that was helping us build a crypto payments gateway. And we decided to go and spend some time on the ground with them. And as soon as I got there, I fell in love with the country and decided to stay. But a lot of the things that were happening there really kind of gave me the idea that something special in crypto was going to happen there. There's some stats on the screen which you can read yourself, but the thing was, the Philippines is a country where the majority of the adult population are unbanked. However, they're very digitally savvy. Filipinos have been the #1 social media users for the last few years. I think something like 5 years running. So everyone's very up on tech, and I saw that there was this real appetite for trying out different tech products or even alternative fintech. The reason, though, why a lot of people are unbanked is, some people don't have the right ID documents to be able to open up a bank account. But by and large, the reason I heard from most people was they said, I just don't earn enough. Like, why would I go and open a bank account where it's difficult for me to go all the way to a bricks and mortar branch and they just charge me fees every month for something that I don't really use? So I found that there was, banking in the Philippines was just completely irrelevant to a lot of people. So anyway, something happened which was quite special in 2021, which was the emergence of play to earn gaming, which is blockchain games where you can basically play them, earn a cryptocurrency based reward in it if you say win a game, for example, and then you could trade these out for other crypto. I'm going to go through these slides really quick because I know I've only got 5 minutes and we're already going over time. So play to earn games really took off in the Philippines. I was the first to write about Axie Infinity on CoinDesk back in August 2020. This was the article that I wrote. At the time, there were people in a very rural village called Cabanatuan City in a province called Nueva Ecija. There was about 100 people playing this game on a street. And they were sort of helping each other learn how to play it and learn how to use crypto through word of mouth. So it was very community oriented right amid the pandemic when a lot of people found themselves in an incredibly dire situation. They'd lost their job, had no other way of making money. And then suddenly they kind of stumbled across this crypto game that would pay them to play. Obviously, it kind of sounded too good to be true to a lot of people in the Philippines. So I want to take you through what happened kind of after this phenomenon first popped up in mid-2020. We made a documentary about it. As I mentioned, it was covered all around the world. I stuck the link in the chat if you want to check out a 30-second preview to it. But after that happened, so the video was released about May 2021. And we saw a lot of different things kind of pop up after this as the phenomenon developed and matured. These are all articles that I wrote for CoinDesk as we were following this and sort of researching it. The first thing that we saw was the rise of the idea of scholarships. Basically, to get into these games, the cost of the NFTs was so great that people couldn't afford to get in. So what we saw was that people were actually loaning out their NFTs, just like a normal productive asset. I sometimes like to say it was a bit like from driving taxis to driving Axies. Like if you had a fleet of taxis, you can't possibly drive them all yourself, but you could loan those assets out to other people and split the revenue that comes from it. That was basically what scholarships were in the game of Axie Infinity, and it played a massive part in terms of onboarding more people to the game and helping people get in. The next thing we saw was people really treating Axie as work. In the Philippines, there's a phenomenon called the OFW, which stands for Overseas Filipino Worker. It's very ingrained within the culture because most people, not most people, but a lot of people will leave home to go overseas to find a good enough job so that they can send money home to their family. It actually makes up about 10% of GDP in the Philippines, that money sent home. And at the very peak of Axie Infinity, we saw that the value of SLP, which is the in-game reward token in Axie Infinity, the value of SLP coming into the Philippines was actually greater than the value of all the money being sent home from OFWs in Hong Kong. So it was a really significant amount of money that people were earning, but without having to leave home, they could just do it, on the couch while playing on their mobile phone, a cute, fun game. The next thing we saw was that SLP, which is that in-game reward token that people were earning, people were starting to want to use it for payments rather than having to go through all of the hoops of earning your SLP, then going through a DEX to change it to Ethereum, to send it to a centralized exchange, and then cash it out into Philippine pesos. There were so many people earning SLP that merchants around the Philippines started accepting SLP. They were able to do this through the Ronin blockchain, which was a side chain that was launched specifically by Sky Mavis, the developers of this NFT game. And we saw that people were able to earn this incredibly obscure ERC20 token in a blockchain game and then use it to pay for stuff without having to go through any kind of traditional banking system, without having to have a bank account. They could make direct payments and merchants were willing to accept it. I mean, that blew my mind because I remember sort of back in 2017, everyone was trying to create a token with real utility that people could actually use to pay for stuff, but we didn't really see it take off. And here it was happening because of a blockchain game. So that's just a little collage. That's actually some ads that I pulled up off Facebook. These were all different local restaurants in the Philippines, shops, dermatologists, a dentist, a baby's clothes shop, like so many different merchants. They were all advertising, we're accepting SLP, come and pay with us, we'll accept your preferred currency. That little picture over on the left too is something that I snapped when I was in the back of a cab. The one on the right, you can probably see very small there that there's a little SLP bottle, the little pink magic potion bottle that's representing that they'll accept SLP even in a cab in the middle of Metro Manila. So it was wild. So since then, I'm going to go through these really quickly. Just quick disclosure, all the projects that I'm going to mention now are ones that I'm personally invested in, but I want to share it with you because it is innovation that's coming directly out of the Philippines as a result of the play-to-earn phenomenon. We've seen gaming guilds. These are organizations that are decentralized. They're set up to acquire the NFT assets needed to play these games, and then they loan them out to their community members. So this has been very important for onboarding more people who either can't afford the NFTs needed or just don't want to own them. They prefer to be able to kind of borrow them for a time and earn money that way. Finblocks is a really fantastic app that allows people to earn yield on their tokens. I personally love it because it is just such a super clean, simple interface, and they list a lot of those play-to-earn tokens, like I was just mentioning. So things like SLP and AXS in Axie Infinity, as well as Sand from the game Sandbox, YTG, which is one of the guilds that I just mentioned, Guild Games. They're listing all of these tokens because they know that it's very much in demand from the Philippine market. And XLD is super interesting. So they have a product called Xspend, which allows these people who are earning an income through play-to-earn games to be able to spend their SLP, their Sand, their YGG, whatever it may be, on anything they want. So you can use this. It's actually a MetaMask login, not an email login. So again, there's no connection to any banks. Somebody can just go on, as long as you've got a crypto wallet, you'll be able to spend this on buying a flight, tickets to a concert, your groceries online, literally anything. So I love things like this that are allowing these new Web3 users to get greater utility out of the currency that they're earning in without having to go and interact with all of these different DeFi protocols and decentralized and centralized exchanges if they don't want to. It's just making the whole process a lot easier. Having said all of that, there is a multitude of challenges in the way for the unbanked in the Philippines who are interacting with this space. So I wanted to leave us on just a couple of points to think about in terms of some of the risks. One of the things that has come up recently, the tax department in the Philippines has reminded the play-to-earn gamers that they must be paying their taxes on their income. We can go into that in question time if you like, but that was a huge development. And for me, also reminded people of the legitimacy of this income. You know, these are real ways for people to earn money. It's kind of not just magic internet fluffy money. The tax department has recognized it and reminded people that they have to pay their dues. We've also seen that there's many challenges in terms of creating these in-game economies and making them sustainable. Axie Infinity has suffered a huge crash and is going through an extremely painful period of economic rebalancing. The SLP token has crashed from its all-time high of, I think, around 35 cents to around 1 now. So that's a huge problem. We are seeing player attrition, but they're sort of moving into other blockchain games. But figuring out how to make sustainable virtual economies is a massive challenge. Crypto volatility, I don't need to explain that to you, but that's a challenge for us all. And of course, scams and rug pulls. You know, a lot of the people who are coming into this community, they're very new to the space, they're super fresh, and they're highly susceptible to being targeted for scams because they just don't know any better. So that's why education is super important for these new players coming in. Just a quick one to leave you on. This is just a scholar in India who is actually working with one of the guilds called IndieGG. And he's just sort of talking about how he knew nothing about crypto before he came in, but simply through interacting with the blockchain game, he was able to learn a range of Web3 skills, which really are going to be the skills in demand in the future decentralized economy. So I think that's really powerful too in terms of how people are building their financial and digital literacy through interacting with these games. That's me. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was really insightful. Daniel, now you're in the driver's seat. Tell us a little bit about what you've observed. I think that you might have some insights about what's going on in the United States. Apparently, there's this article going around that $250,000 a year is not enough. You have to live paycheck to paycheck. So I don't know if you know about that, but there's definitely, you know, people in the United States that are also having banking troubles. Can you give us some insights into that?
Yeah, no problem. And just to give some colorful detail here, I mean, my company is unbanked.com, right? Like literally a co-founder, we own the trademark to the term unbanked in electronic banking. So we definitely understand this really well. I'd say the way we envision the concept of being unbanked, right now in payments and banking, a lot of people talk about unbanked as if there's effectively poor people, cash and carry immigrants. It's like that's kind of the category of people who are low income. That's typically the mindset from a banking perspective of what it means to be unbanked. In my version of the world in 2023 and beyond in a crypto world, I view it as everyone will choose to be unbanked, right? They can be their own bank where you have your own money sitting in your own wallet and then you connect it to different services, whether that's yield services, whether that's a crypto debit card. In multiple countries, you send money to somebody across the world, they get the funds instantaneously. They can get a card instantaneously to connect to those funds. You technically don't even need a bank account. I think of the bank account as really just being your money. It's the equivalent of a fax machine, right? That's how I view it. So when we asked the question, Tatiana, about, you know, if $250,000, if that's enough money, and I know that the topic du jour right now is about a lot of things about inflation, but we're like, you know, like the party's over right now. You know, like we woke up, your makeup's messed up, and you have a hangover, and that party is over. And that's what we've been living in the last couple of years is a Fed-induced sugar high that now the Fed is putting, or central banks are putting their boot on. And so, you know, I would argue that whether or not $250,000 is enough money, if you making $250,000 and you're not saving, then that is a you problem, right? That is, you're not saving money because you have chosen in this day and age to make poor decisions financially. Sorry to be so direct. But you know, anyway, I think that everyone's moving to digital money. And I think that as long as people are moving to digital money, we have the ability for people to actually choose to be their own bank. They'll have more decisions. and they won't have any of the FU fees from the banks, and they can actually do the things that make sense for them personally. You're on mute.
Sarah's on mute. Thank you. So are there any other things that y'all wanted to say? It seems in the chat, the play to earn concept is really popular. Do you think that that's going to be something that people can use to replace jobs in the future long term? Or do you think it's going to just turn into, eventually just gaming for fun and work for work?
I mean, it's open question, right? Like everybody's seen this concept of step-in, right? I mean, if you can do gaming to earn, why not praying to earn or something, right? Stepping is working out to earn, right? And the price of the step-in tokens have dropped pretty considerably with the market. So I think it's an open question. I think it's pretty phenomenal. I like what Leah was talking about. It's pretty phenomenal to watch play to earn. I'm fascinated by it. I actually have. She talked about SILV. I actually own SILV tokens and ILV tokens. I'm a big fan of Illuvium. So I don't think we know that, but I think that it's an inevitability that there will be, I'm 44 now. I've got my children. They play Roblox. They're constantly addicted to Roblox, and they are constantly like playing these games, and they have to have, my daughter's like, I want to buy this hat. So they got to buy the Robux. So I think there's definitely going to be digital money. We're going to own NFTs that are going to interact with gaming. And that's a real business model. And I think that's going to be a thing. And I think it's going to continue on. And then whether that's a Fortnite game, like normal type of console gaming, or whether that's something like, metaverse oriented, it's irrelevant. It's just 2D or 3D. And then the model will continue. So I do think when you fundamentally get down to it, the core business model is that you'll have more of an exchange relationship, like Fortnite or Apple or whoever will become the exchange that makes the transaction fee, and the consumer will have more control over what they decide to own. And I think that's going to be really cool. And I think, by the way, the younger generation, not my generation, the younger generation really understands that. They're adopting that. And I think more and more time, that'll become the norm.
Yeah, just if I can add really quickly to that, I think what we're going to see is two aspects of this. Firstly, in gaming, we're seeing a lot of pushback from the traditional gaming industry and even, mainstream gamers who hate NFTs. They think it's like a Ponzi scheme. And look, to be honest, I think that the way that play to earn came out into the world because it was so financially focused. And I guess, some of the bad reputational bits that crypto has too, I can understand that pushback. But I do still believe that blockchain is going to be a big part of mainstream gaming in the future. I think maybe not every single game, but it will underpin a lot of them. And the aspect that I think will be most interesting to mainstream gamers is the ability to own your in-game assets. There's people who spend tens of thousands of dollars, if not tens of thousands of hours, winning these very valuable in-game assets, but creating or buying cool skins for their avatar, or leveling up in a game. But until now, all of that has been kind of controlled in a walled garden. Everything that you earn and win and own, you don't actually own it because you're prohibited from trading it outside the game. So I think the real opportunity to own your digital assets will be incredibly important to gamers. On the other side, I'm really passionate about that opportunity for the decentralized economy to provide opportunities for people to participate in these global opportunities, to be part of marketplaces, for example. So whether it's, NFT artists in the Philippines who are able to sell an item via OpenSea, but always retain some kind of ownership, so they earn royalties on it forevermore every single time it's traded on the secondary market. That'll be wildly powerful. And it's not just NFTs either. I think we're seeing other platforms, like, for example, the Cello blockchain has a super cool app that allows people to do microtasking. So you could do that and then get paid in the Cello stablecoin. For people like that, no, they're not looking to play a fun game. They want opportunities to earn. And perhaps in their hometown, there isn't many opportunities to be able to earn a good living. So there's loads of ways that I think Web3 and blockchain are providing opportunities for people, whether it's earning, owning, all these different things. So,
well, I want to kind of tag onto that a little bit too, also in the sense that e-gaming is a real thing. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry already, right? People are paying, they're 10 years ago, imagine a kid tells their parents to say, what do you want to do when you grow up? And they're going to go, I'm going to play video games and get paid lots of money. And they're going to say, okay, kid, like you need to snap out of it. You're crazy. In reality, people are making really good salaries. And so there is no doubt that you can take that e-gaming model that we know exists, where sponsors will put lots of money behind it. And you apply blockchain to that, and then you take out unnecessary intermediaries. I can definitely see that happening. So where it really goes, we'll see.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah.
On that note, I think that it's also very important to make sure that, on the topic of unbanked and underbanked people, that these types of play to earn situations are available and accessible to people who don't have bank accounts. So the issue being, right, so if you're play to earn, you can earn your tokens. Okay, that'll sit in an account, but it doesn't really actually have any utility unless to spend on the platform. You have to be able to cash that out into a local payment method. So in Africa, for instance, you don't have bank accounts. Generally, people don't have bank accounts. They're served by mobile money, if they're served by anything, which is essentially getting all your financial services through the Verizon or the AT&Ts of Africa, and having an account basically registered through your phone number. What Umoja Labs does is we provide the on-off ramps that go between cryptocurrency and your local payment channels across many different countries across the globe. So that's critically important, because if we were to have play to earn in a country like Kenya or Nigeria or Ghana, it's very important that they be able to off ramp the tokens they earn from the game into a local payment channel that actually provides them with the utility to be able to spend that money on, whether it be health fees, food, water, whatever it is. So that's also a very critical component, is those on-off ramps to local payment channels. It can't be done without it.
Can I just do one really quick plug? I so want you to check out Xspend by XLD Finance. It is a payments product that allows people to log in with their MetaMask and then use whatever play to earn tokens they have to be able to interact with online commerce. And the platform actually manages all of the exchange on the back end. I'm so down with you, Sawyer, because it's true. There's no point in earning these tokens if you can't actually spend them on anything. And I think we've always kind of been sort of a slave to off ramps or going the last mile. And I think if we can find ways to be able to spend these tokens without even having to interact with those last mile operators, I think that's kind of interesting. So just wanted to share that as well.
And that's what my company focuses on too. So I couldn't agree more. Go ahead.
Awesome. I'm going to check that out.
Great. Yeah. So if you guys want to give yourselves a quick plug before we end the call, any kind of final parting words for the audience, if you'd like to speak with our panelists, you can join them in the comments section. We know that there's a lot of different questions going off in there. We've got another panel that's going to be moderated by June, but please, panelists, is there anything else that you'd like to say before we sign off?
Yeah, if you are interested, so like I said, what a lot of what we do at Umoja Labs are the aid delivery, and the critical component of aid delivery is making sure if we do deposit cryptocurrency into digital wallets, that they're able to off ramp those and be able to spend those funds in ways that are meaningful to them. So part of our offering is an API on off ramp between cryptocurrency and fiat currency that connects to local payment channels across emerging markets. So anyone who's in need that's watching this of on and off ramps, please feel free to visit our website, umoja.money, or email me at sawyer@umoja.money.com. I'm just putting in my email here in the chat. So please do reach out for those on off ramp concerns.
No, I just agree. I mean, literally unbanked. What we do is crypto debit cards around the world, right? I couldn't agree more with what Leah was saying. Unbanked.com. That's it.
All right.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks, everyone. We'll take a little break and we'll bring everybody back on.